But my point to you, Mehdi, is...
So there was no ceasefire. You just can't say... It's just not true.
They would say there was a ceasefire.
And it's not true.
We'd say otherwise.
The facts say otherwise, Piers.
But what I've noticed with you is you always downplay anything which might be deemed by Israel to be provocation.
No.
You're always...
Not at all. Did I downplay October 7th? I don't think I ever have on your show or anywhere else. It's a horrible crime.
But what you do, in your debating style, and it's an impressive debating style, but you always pivot back to, but the real problem's Israel. Yeah, but the real problem's Israel.
Hold on. If we're going to talk about styles, Piers, you're famous for an interview style that begins with condemn this group, that group, that group. On Monday, 500... Hold on. Let me finish my point, then you come back in. 500 people were killed on Monday. 100 women, 50 children. I assume you condemn that and don't support the killing of civilians in Lebanon, right? 500 people died. That's the equivalent of 30,000 Americans or 6,000 Brits in a day.
Sure.
And yet we started this interview with Hezbollah charter. So if you're going to talk about styles, you're focusing on the wrong thing.
Okay.
I'm going to focus on 500 people dead.
Did you see that? Piers accused Mehdi of always deflecting, but Mehdi flipped it right back on him and called out Piers for his own interview style on live television. He came prepared with facts and numbers and refused to let anyone control the narrative. This is what real debating looks like. Tell me in the comments, have you ever seen anyone handle Piers Morgan like this before?
Okay, let me go back to the week before, where 3,000 Hezbollah terrorists were targeted specifically...
How do you know that?
What do you mean? How do I know that?
You just said 3,000 Hezbollah terrorists were targeted.
How many was it?
I don't know. I'm asking you. Made the claim.
That is what's been reported.
By
Do
who?
you dispute that?
Yeah, I dispute everything Israel says.
They lied
for a year, Piers.
You don't know the real number.
But I didn't give a number. You did.
Well, what has been the number from the other side?
I didn't give a number. You said 3,000 terrorists. I'm wondering why a journalist...
That is what's been reported.
No, it's not reported. It's what's said by Israel. Or it's what's said by people speaking on behalf of Israel.
So
was a little girl who died?
Hang on. Israel hasn't even said it, did it?
They have in private. It's been reported widely. To the American government.
Okay, but don't say they said it publicly. They haven't.
But
obviously, I believe they did it, right? But
I believe they did it too.
You're saying they said this in public.
You just gave a 3,000 number, and I'm wondering. I just saw a little girl's funeral last week. Was she a Hezbollah terrorist in your view?
No.
So then why did you say 3,000 terrorists? There was a kid killed.
No.
This moment right here is incredibly important. Piers made a specific claim, and Mehdi stopped him with one simple question. How do you know that? That one question changed everything. Because the most important thing in any debate is questioning where information comes from before repeating it as fact. This is what separates a good debater from a great one. What did you think about this moment? Let me know in the comments.
I was about to say that in the process of targeting very specifically, in an extraordinarily whichever way you look at it.
In a terror attack?
Well, that's what I'm going to come to. So they target 3,000 Hezbollah terrorists with their pagers, walkie-talkies, and so on. In the process, a small, comparative to that number, a small number of civilians get killed, which is obviously deplorable. But my point to you is, if someone's been chucking rockets over for a year at you and your people, you've had to displace 60,000 people from the north of your country because of his relentless bombardment, and you eventually respond in such a precise, targeted fashion, right? And in the process, some civilians are killed, which is never acceptable, can never be condoned, never be supported. But if it is right, as has been widely reported by all mainstream media, that 3,000 terrorists...
people associated with Hezbollah. Not everybody in Hezbollah is a terrorist.
Okay.
Like a driver, a nurse.
3,000 members of Hezbollah were targeted, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that that is... Some people have claimed it's unlawful.
Yep.
You've said it's a terror attack. So you think it was illegal.
Yep.
But I would say that's not. I mean, I would say that if you look at that in totality, they are responding to rocket attacks all year, and they are being extremely precise, unlike what they've been doing in Gaza, where I do not accept that Israel has been doing this precision targeting they keep talking about, and I've held them to account for that. I do think in this particular occasion, they were extremely precise, and it was a brilliant piece of warfare, right, if you want to call it that. Notwithstanding, I don't like any war, nor do you. But my point is, surely that is justified. I mean, in some parts of this, you have to say Israel's entitled to defend itself.
So actually, Lebanon is the one that needs to defend itself, as we say, 500 people killed on a day. Look, you are right. You have held. I've watched your interviews with Israeli spokespersons. You have held them to account on their nonsense about casualty numbers. But let me just say three very brief things on that. Number one, you said just a moment ago, when they eventually respond, you used that phrase eventually. That's just factually inaccurate. We already discussed.
No, you talked about
82% of the attacks. They have been bombing Lebanon for a year. Now, you can say who started it, whatever. I'm not talking about. But they've been attacking Lebanon.
But this is a significant escalation.
Yes, but 5 days after October the the 7th, or 6 days after, they killed a Reuters video journalist in southern Lebanon, a man called Issam Abdullah, killed, according to Reporters Without Borders, targeted by Israel. According to the UN, a war crime, right? So they have been killing people in Lebanon who have nothing to do with Hezbollah for a year now. So let's not say eventually. Number two, I would say, yes, it's an act of terror. And that's just not my view. You know Leon Panetta, former Obama defense secretary, former head of the CIA. When the former head of the CIA comes out and says Israel is committing an act of terror, I think we should take that seriously. But it's not just him. A group of UN special rapporteurs on human rights and extrajudicial killings put out a statement.
But many other
saying,
people have said it was not an act
of course,
of
and
terror.
that's the problem with international law. People can argue it all ways. You know that you and I are not lawyers, but we know that lawyers can argue
multiple things. But do you not think that action was justified?
No, of course not. I don't think you should booby-trap devices. It's against international law to use booby traps. I think I'm actually petrified, separate to the politics of the Middle East, Piers. I'm actually petrified at the ability of governments to use technology and surveillance to track us and now kill us. I think there's a wider discussion to be had. I think the idea that Israel keeps opening the doors to all sorts of new precedents that other governments will run with and we will regret. I think, going into the supply chain of devices, phones, beepers, whatever, pagers, I think that's very, very worrying. I also think from a practical point of view, it's not targeted. If you blow up a guy with a pager, even if you think he's a terrorist or a terrorist leader, you don't know if he's driving, he's at an intersection, he's about to crash his car into children crossing the road. We saw them going off in grocery stores. It's taken out people's eyes, fingers. No, I don't think it's targeted. I think it's barbaric. I think it's illegal. And I also think, look, I say this all the time. Even if I was an Israeli, I would not support this. It doesn't make Israel safer. Do you think Israel's safer today?
This is where the debate gets really fascinating. Piers argued that a military action was precise and justified, but Mehdi came back with expert opinions, legal arguments, and real-world examples. He then asked one question that was almost impossible to answer. Is anyone actually safer after all of this? That question stopped the conversation completely. This is why this debate is so captivating. Two people clashing over facts, laws, and real human consequences in real time.
Would you support then any military...
They just fired a rocket at Tel Aviv.
Let me ask you, would you then, by your criteria, is there any military response that Israel can give, first to what Hamas did on October the 7th, the second to what Hezbollah has been doing ever since? Is there any military response Israel can do which, in your eyes, would be justified?
Well, I don't accept the loaded question. You say response. Israel is the aggressor in all of these places. As I say,
they are illegally... the aggressor on October the 7th, was it?
Well, it was actually, because it was occupying Gaza and it was besieging Gaza for 20 years, and even in Israeli general.
You're sounding like you think it was justified what Hamas did.
No.
It's one or the other.
Why? How is it justified?
So it wasn't justified.
Of course not. I've said that many times.
So was Israel not entitled to respond?
No, but I'm questioning you use the word response. Response implies everything starts on October 7th.
No,
I don't accept your timeline.
I've never said that.
Well, you keep saying response.
To that specific terror attack, in a way that if in England somebody suddenly launched an attack on our people and they killed 1,200 and wounded nearly 7,000, I would absolutely expect my government to respond with substantial force. Would you?
Yes, but Britain...
So you would?
Hold on. But is Britain occupying territory in that scenario? Because that's the key point here. It's Shlomo Brom...
It's dangerous wording.
No, it's not dangerous, because I'm
making it sound like... I don't disagree with you.
And right here, Piers pulls out one of the oldest tricks in debate. He asks if there is any action Mehdi would ever support trying to make him look unreasonable. But Mehdi does not take the bait. He refuses to accept the framing of the question and calmly explains why. This level of composure under pressure is incredibly rare, and this is the moment where even Piers Morgan could not find a way to push back anymore. What you just witnessed was a true masterclass in debate. Mehdi Hasan came onto one of the toughest interview shows in the world and took complete control of the conversation. He challenged claims in real time. He stayed calm under pressure, and he used Piers Morgan's own techniques right back against him. The lesson here is simple. Facts and composure will always be more powerful than pressure and volume. Now I want to hear from you. Who do you think won this debate? Drop your answer in the comments right now. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss moments like this one. See you in the next video.